Hi everyone. So I was just studying some scriptures, and I thought I would jump on and share what the Lord has given to me. So sometimes God will call us to certain things, like I said in the previous videos, that seemingly is bigger than us. Because when we're called to it, maybe He called us to write a book, to start a business. Maybe He called us to ministry. Maybe He called us to start foundations and charities. Maybe He called us to mentor or to teach. Maybe there's so many things that you know the Lord is calling you to, but you feel it's difficult to do. And sometimes we began to believe that calling on our life, and we began to seek God for it, and then we find ourselves in a place of where opposition come against what God has called us to do. So I was reading Mark 4 and 35, and I just wanted to share with you guys Jesus' position on when the Lord told him to go somewhere, he and the disciples, and how opposition came against him, but how he handled that opposition that came against us. And I think there's a lot of meat and a lot of fruit in this word that we can apply to our life when we are in the position of seeking God and following what He called us to do, but then we find ourselves in a situation where a storm has come, opposition has come against what He has told us to do. So in Mark 4 and 35, it says, "The same day, when the evening came, He said to them," and He's speaking to the disciples. This is Jesus talking because it's in red. Let us go cross to the other side. When they had sent the crowd away, they took Him into the boat just as He was there, also other little boats with them. At a great windstorm arose, and the waves splashed into the boat, so that it was now filling the boat. So they're on the sea. Jesus has got the word to go to the other side, and the disciples, they send the crowd away, and then they get in the boat, and then a storm comes, and now it's affecting their ability to get to the other side. So we're at Mark 4 and 38. It says, we'll go back up to 37. A great windstorm arose, and the waves splashed into the boat, so that it was now filling the boat. He was in the stern, asleep on a pillow. They woke him up and said, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" He rose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." Then the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. He said to them, "Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith?" They feared greatly and said one to another, What kind of man is this, that even the winds and sea obey him?" So understand there that the disciples, they got the call on what to do. The mission was to get to the other side. The significance about getting to the other side was there were so many miracles that needed to take place. If they never would have got to the other side, if we're going to jump ahead to Mark 5, you have the man who was possessed with the demons. Jesus went in, healed him, and cast out the demons out of him. He went forth and started to preach and tell. Well, he wanted to follow Jesus, but then Jesus sent him away and told him to go forth and tell your people about what was done. So he went back to his city. All those who had saw him possessed saw him free from these demonic spirits. So he went forth preaching, and they were saved because of that. Imagine if Jesus never would have, if they never would have made it to the other side, that man would have never been healed. Also in 5, you have Jairus. Jairus was the Samaritan that daughter had died, and he's going forth. Jesus is coming forth to heal his daughter, whom had died. But also in chapter 5, which a lot of people are very familiar with, we have the woman with the issue of blood. If Jesus would have never made it from chapter 4 over from across the sea to the other side, he never would have made it to heal the woman with the issue of blood. So sometimes we have in our lives where there are so much opposition, so many things that cause us to stumble or cause us to disturb our peace because storms is coming, opposition. God has told us, hey, go start that church. Hey, go start that business. Hey, go write that book. And when we began to do the things he called us to do, we find ourselves in a situation where the storm is coming and we seemingly forget what God has told us to do. The disciples, Jesus told them, let's go to the other side. So the mission was, let's make it to the other side. Jesus' position was, I'm confident in what the Lord has said. I'm going to sleep. I'm not worried about the storm that's coming. I'm going to sleep. So Jesus went to sleep in the midst of a storm. He didn't even wake up while the storm was arising. It says the water began to fill the boat and Jesus still asleep. So we have to be in a position where God has called us to do something. And then when the storm is coming, we cannot be moved by what we see, but we have to be moved by what we know. We have to be confident. We have to be like Jesus. We just got to go ahead and go to sleep. It takes strength and power to be able to go to sleep in the midst of a storm. When we find ourselves in a position of a storm is arising against what God has called us to do, we have to take joy in God and understand that there is something on the other side of what God is calling us to do. So if God is calling us to start that business, start that church, teach that class, write that book, start that nonprofit, know that there is victory behind you going forth and starting it. Because Jesus obeyed, woke up, spoke to the wind, and said, peace be still, and then got on them because they had no faith. Jesus was not always going to be on earth with them, so they had to have enough faith to know that, listen, when this happens again, you have to speak to that storm in your life. You have to speak to that storm. You have to speak to the storm that's coming against what God has placed in you to birth. And understand on the other side of what God is calling you to do is victory. Because on the other side, where Jesus was leading the disciples to, was victory for the people in which who needed the victory. Know that that business that God told you to start, you may think is for you. It ain't for you. It's to change the life of someone else. Of course, I mean, it's going to be profitable for you. It's going to help you along the way, but it's for someone else. It's for God's glory. It's for God to get the glory out of it. That book, it may, you may have birthed it, but it's for someone else. And ministry is for someone else. Understand, God is looking at the bigger picture. If he's telling you to write it, he saw how many people it was going to touch, how many lives it was going to change. So know that if a storm is coming your way, do not be fearful, but speak to that storm, or sometimes just be still and rely confidently in the word of God and what he said. Another scripture, I'm going to jump over to Ephesians 6:10 to see what a way that can help you when you're in a situation where God has told you something and the storm has risen up against you. Ephesians 6:10, it says, finally, my brother, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. So you want to be strong in the Lord and the power of his might. Remember, sometimes, as strong as we are, we find ourselves in places of weakness, especially when we're following and doing what God has told us to do. We can find ourselves being weak and needing God's strength. And it says, put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For our fight is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Listen, so our war, first and foremost, God said, listen, I've equipped you. I've given you my word. It is your sword. It's your shield. You can put on the armor of God that you can stand against the devil and the evil day. What Jesus did in 4:35, he stood against the devil when he came against him. That evil day is the day in which you find yourself in the storm because you're following and obeying what God has told you to do. So when you find yourself in that situation, you got to get yourself ready and put on that armor of God and stand and not give up, but to press in. You have to speak that word. Understand that we are not fighting against flesh and blood. What happened when he told the disciples, let's go to the other side, it was not man who was trying to stop them or prevent them from getting to the other side. It was the storm. It was a spiritual war. The enemy saw and knew what was to come. He knew if Jesus is trying to go somewhere, it's with purpose. He's not going anywhere just to go, just to hang out. He's moving with a purpose. Understand, if God has called you, you have to move with a purpose. And when you begin to move with your purpose and the plan that God has for you, you'll find yourself, when the enemy comes against you and he tries to put people in to throw you off task, and you think it's the people that you're fighting against, when it's not. It's the principalities with powers to influence those people to prevent you from getting to the other side. And the other side would be you writing that book. The other side would be you starting that business. The other side would be you ministering. Listen, when God told me to do this YouTube channel, I was like, okay, me, Lord? No, not me. You didn't call me to do this. I was so fearful to do it. And the enemy would speak to me. You can't do that. Nope. You're not going to do it. Nope. They're not going to listen to you. Nobody's going to like it. And I remember the Lord telling me, all you need is just do it one time. And I did the video and I saw it and I went, oh, I don't like the way my nose look on that. I don't like the way I looked on that. Nah, that ain't good. And what I realized was, it ain't about me. It's about God. He has to get the glory. So just because the enemy starts to speak things against me and bring things against me that tells me I can't do it, doesn't mean I can't do it. God has put in me, he has put in you the equipment to do it. All you got to do is put on your armor and stand in the evil day. Jesus stood, he arose and spoke to the wind. It was the evil day for him because he had a goal. He had a purpose. It was to get to the other side. So I know you have a goal. You have a purpose. It's to get to the other side. It's to write that book. It's to start that foundation. It's to do whatever God has told you to do. Only you can do it, because God has told you to do it. So do it. Do not be fearful, but stand in the Lord and the power of his might. Be strong in the Lord and the power of his might. Let me say it correctly. Be strong in the Lord and the power of his might. Because there is no other might that's going to help you to get through that storm that's coming your way. Do not be fearful of what man may say. It is not them. It's what's influencing them. You have to know who you are. You have to know the word and know that your peace can be still. When he's speaking, when he's coming against you, he's coming against, remember, the enemy comes in to steal, kill, and destroy. So if he's coming against you, he's trying to steal something. That means you got something for him to steal. Do not allow the enemy to steal what God has placed in you. Be still. Don't move. Know that he's God. And he will cause you to go across, to get to that other side. Speak to whatever's coming against you. The word. So that your peace can be still. The word spoke the word. And his peace was still. And he was able to get to the other side and do many marvelous miracles. So I just hope that you guys be encouraged. Be still and know that he's God. And that if he told you to write that book, begin to write. He'll bring the people around. Don't worry about that. If he told you to start that business, start doing your research to start the business. He'll bring the people around you. You ain't got to worry about that. That's on him to worry about. If he told you to start that YouTube channel, start the YouTube channel. You ain't got to worry about who's going to watch it. He'll make the people come. Do not be fearful to do what God told you to do. Understand the opposition is going to come against what he called you to do. That's just life. Everybody got it. The great and successful people all went through something and try to prevent them from doing what God called them to do. Be blessed. I love you guys. Have a great day. God bless you.